Welcome viewers to an exploration of the history of the heart of the Middle East. In this video, we will uncover the truth of the ongoing events in Palestine, what the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear, and the events that led up to where we are now. This video is to highlight the truth and to expel the lies that we are all being fooled with. This conflict cannot be fully seen from one perspective, and thus we will also be focusing on other journalists who have been covering the recent events in Palestine. My name is Retro Saga, and my channel focuses on history, and Palestine is full of history that I wish to comment on. If you like these kinds of videos and want to see more, then consider subscribing to the channel to keep up to date with my latest content. Before I continue with the topic of this video, I would like to say that my intention of creating this video is solely to spread awareness about what is going on in the world. I only comment on the facts that we know. In order to understand what led up to this point, we must delve into the vast history of Palestine. Before 1948, Palestine was made up of what we would know as the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. The exact boundaries and administrative divisions changed over time under different empires and colonial powers. However, in the early 20th century, the general area known as Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire. This was, of course, until the end of World War I. The Ottomans were a contribution to preventing the establishment of the State of Israel. The notion of Zionist migration to Palestine and the creation of a Jewish state was not a secret or hidden agenda. The Zionist movement, which emerged in the late 19th century, openly advocated for the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. Theodor Herzl, often considered the father of modern political Zionism, published his seminal work, The Jewish State, in 1896, outlining the need for a Jewish homeland. Subsequently, the first Zionist Congress was convened in Basel, Switzerland, in 1897, where the Basel Program was adopted, expressing the movement's goal of establishing a home for the Jewish people in Palestine. As the Ottoman Empire still held control over Palestine during this period, Ottoman authorities were aware of the Zionist movement's goals. The Ottoman government was generally receptive to Jewish immigration, viewing it as a potential source of economic development for the region. However, tensions arose over time as the number of Jewish immigrants increased, leading to political and social challenges in the area. The Balfour Declaration in 1917, issued by the British government during World War I, expressed support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. After the war, the League of Nations granted Britain the mandate to govern Palestine, further intensifying the conflict between Jewish and Arab communities. It is important to realize that there were already Jews living in Palestine side by side with the Arabs. The Jews had migrated in waves under Ottoman rule. This was before the Balfour Declaration of 1917. At this point in time, there was no conflict between the Palestinians and the Jews. The Palestinians had welcomed the Jews into their country and were living alongside them in peace. The second wave of Jews immigrating to Palestine was because of the rise in anti-Semitism in Europe. The Zionist movement gained momentum, and socialist ideals influenced many immigrants. The second Aliyah, as it was known, saw the establishment of more communal agricultural settlements, known as kibbutzim, and the development of Hebrew as a spoken language. The peace had been maintained until 1917, when the British expressed their support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This meant that there was a massive increase in Jewish immigration to Palestine, and this was not controlled as it had been in the past when the Ottomans had been ruling over this region. The British government believed that issuing the Balfour Declaration could garner support from Jewish communities around the world, particularly in the United States and Russia, and could potentially influence the course of the war. This is why the British issued this declaration, as they wanted to weaken the Ottomans and to manipulate the Jews into opposing the empire. The Ottomans were such a massive empire that Britain tried to turn the Arabs against the empire. This was before the Balfour Declaration. There were negotiations between the British government and Sheriff Hussein of Mecca. The Hussein-McMahon correspondence involved promises of Arab independence in exchange for Arab support against the Ottoman Empire. However, the later Sykes-Picot Agreement in 1916 and the Balfour Declaration in 1917 seemed to contradict these promises, leading to tensions and a loss of trust between the Arabs and the British. At this point in time, the Arabs and the Ottoman Empire was united under the Caliphate. This was a political institution that united the Ottoman Empire and all the other Muslim countries at the time. This title was later abolished in 1924 by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the founder of modern Turkey. The primary goal of the Sykes-Picot Agreement was to delineate the spheres of influence and control in the Middle East for the major Allied powers in the event of their victory over the Ottoman Empire. This was a secret understanding between the United Kingdom and France, with the assent of the Russian Empire. The agreement, however, did not account for the aspirations of the local Arab populations, who had been promised independence by the British through other means, most notably in the McMahon-Hussein Correspondence. Concerning Palestine, the Sykes-Picot Agreement initially proposed an international administration for the region of Jerusalem and its environs. The agreement, however, did not provide for full Arab independence or self-determination. Instead, it marked the beginning of a series of geopolitical arrangements that significantly influenced the political landscape of the Middle East and contributed to the establishment of various mandates under the League of Nations. It was the League of Nations that granted the mandate to Britain in 1920, 3 years after the Balfour Declaration. The mandate period lasted until 1948, which was when the Nakba took place. The word Nakba is Arabic for catastrophe. This refers to the forced displacement and dispossession of Palestinian Arabs that occurred during and after the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. The Nakba is a crucial event in the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and had a profound impact on the Palestinian people and the broader Middle East. The establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 followed the United Nations Partition Plan of 1947, which proposed the division of Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem as an international city. The Arab states rejected this plan, leading to armed conflict. During the 1948 war, hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Arabs fled or were expelled from their homes, leading to a significant refugee crisis. Many Palestinians left due to the violence, fear, or in response to calls from Arab leaders. Some were also forcibly expelled by Israeli forces. The village of Deir Yassin, near Jerusalem, witnessed a notorious massacre on April 9, 1948, carried out by Zionist paramilitary groups. The brutality of the attack, along with reports of other similar incidents, contributed to the panic and mass exodus of Palestinian Arab communities. In response to the refugee crisis, the United Nations established the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East UNRWA in 1949. UNRWA was tasked with providing assistance and services to Palestinian refugees. The Nakba had a profound impact on Palestinian identity and memory. The forced displacement and loss of homes and land became central elements of the Palestinian narrative, fostering a strong sense of collective identity and determination among the Palestinian people. The consequences of the Nakba continue to affect the Palestinian people today. Many of the displaced Palestinians and their descendants live in refugee camps in the West Bank, Gaza Strip, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. The issue of the right of return for Palestinian refugees is still a significant point of contention in peace negotiations. The Nakba is commemorated annually on May 15, corresponding with the day after the declaration of the State of Israel in 1948. Palestinians mark this day to remember the events of the Nakba and to assert their right to return to their homes. Additionally, it was only due to the Second World War that Britain actually decided to create a Jewish state. The Arab Revolt in Palestine began in 1936 and continued until 1939. It was a series of protests, strikes, and acts of violence by Arab Palestinians against British rule and the increased Jewish immigration to Palestine. Arabs were concerned about losing their demographic majority and opposed the growth of the Jewish community. The revolt involved both rural and urban elements, with demands ranging from the end of Jewish immigration to the establishment of an Arab state. The British responded with force, and the Hejna, a Jewish paramilitary organization, also played a role in the conflict. The Peel Commission was a British royal commission headed by Lord Peel, formed to investigate the causes of the Arab unrest in Palestine. The commission proposed a partition plan that would have divided Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with an international administration for Jerusalem and its environs. The proposal was met with acceptance by Zionist leaders, but was rejected by Arab leaders. The plan highlighted the deep-seated tensions and conflicting national aspirations in the region. In response to the Arab Revolt, and as a result of geopolitical considerations during World War II, the British government issued the White Paper of 1939. The White Paper imposed restrictions on Jewish immigration to Palestine, limiting it to 75,000 over a 5-year period. After this, further immigration would be subject to Arab consent. Additionally, the paper outlined a plan to establish an independent Palestinian state within 10 years, with an Arab majority. The White Paper was met with strong opposition from the Jewish community, especially as it contradicted the Balfour Declaration's promise of establishing a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. Ultimately, it was the Holocaust atrocities that increased international sympathy for Jewish refugees. Now, let us focus on the ongoing events in Palestine, which has drawn the attention of thousands. As far as the mainstream media is aware, the Israeli-Palestine conflict began on October 7th, but this is not correct. Now, I will make this clear. I condemn the killing of innocents, be that men, women, or children. I am not justifying what happened on this day, but we also have to understand that there is a reason for every action. This had been building up over time for the past 70 years. To this very day, the Palestinians have been suffering under Israeli occupation. Even those Palestinians who accepted Israeli citizenship are not treated the same as other Israeli citizens. Palestinians who are kept in Israeli prisons are not even given basic human rights. There has been evidence from testimonies of hostages that suggests an alternative explanation for what happened on October 7th, when Hamas broke through the Gaza fence and seized territory in the Gaza envelope as part of Operation Al-Aqsa Flood. They captured Israelis as hostages. We know now that they wanted hostages to exchange for other Palestinians who were being held in Israeli prisons. Bear in mind that these prisoners were held in administrative detention in Israel without charge or trial. These Palestinians were not treated fairly as they were beaten and deliberately humiliated. They were kept away from their families. Let us think for a second, if there was a breach in the border, wouldn't the Israeli military, one of the most advanced militaries in the world, realize this breach and take necessary precautions? Israel is known for its use of propaganda and taking advantage of any events that take place to give the world a reason to have sympathy for them. Even Israeli journalists highlighted this in an interview. They knew that the Israeli government were playing around with the numbers so they could overreact to this attack. They are also known for their use of the Hannibal Directive. This is an order that can be given to soldiers to kill the people they are meant to protect, to prevent any Israeli from being taken as a hostage. The world has only now opened its eyes to the atrocities that the Israeli government has done. At first, it was all about their response being proportionate. As the casualties quickly rose, people with their humanity still intact stood up for the Palestinians who were being slaughtered by the IDF. Protests are supposed to be the way to demonstrate where the people stand and for the government to take that into mind. But nothing was done. Instead, these marches for freedom were described as hate marches. At that remark, I was confused. How is a peaceful protest demonstrating hate? Why is it that whenever someone questions a Zionist, they are seen as anti-Semitic? What happened to free speech, and why are people averted from any suspicion just because of their identity? The Israeli government even used the Holocaust to justify what they are committing now. But I know how the Israeli government thinks and acts is just the officials making the decisions. Even the Israelis themselves are being brainwashed by this conflict. They are told to believe that Israel is the safest place for Jews. There is no way that couldn't be further from the truth. How could you actually accept that, especially after October 7th? The Israeli government are actually manipulating their own citizens by using their anger against the people of Gaza. Protests of Israelis blocking humanitarian aid trucks from entering into Gaza. Let's think about this for a second. What are these people doing? The people of Gaza are dying of starvation, and these people are denying them basic human rights. What is worse, though, is that the IDF has done nothing to stop these people. They have in fact done the opposite. They applaud them for their actions and encourage them. The reason they do this is because at this point, Israel was told by the International Court of Justice to prevent any acts that could be plausible for genocide. This put pressure on the Israeli government to not partake in any radical action such as this protest. Since Israel's attacks on Rafah, on the border of Egypt, only now are UK and US politicians admitting that Israel's response was over the top. The US President admits it, the UK Prime Minister admits it, and David Cameron has realized this as well. But this is too little too late. It has been 6 months since this thing has erupted, and only now they are pressing the Israeli government about its actions. There was even a case by the International Court of Justice, which said the Gaza genocide case could be plausible. It has ordered the Israeli government to take necessary action to prevent genocidal action by its armed forces. I think by this point the whole world knows what's going on in Palestine, and that nothing can be overlooked anymore. I hope the Palestinian people find justice for their struggles, and that the Israeli government will stop its barbaric attacks against the children of Gaza. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe for more videos. Please do not spread hate in the comments section of this video. There is no need for that over here.